The Dodgers just showed us how they could win with the current state of the pitching staff, and that's a good thing.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans, welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. This is a daily podcast covering the World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us where we find podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. You can become an everydayer by listening or watching every day. You can make that easier on yourself by subscribing and get notified when our episodes are ready or when we're going live on YouTube. If this is your first time listening, watching, welcome. I'm Vince Samperio, usually joined by co-host Jeff Snyder, but just me tonight. And we're going to talk about the Dodgers and the series win over the Yankees. I know we had the special Friday night episode after that fun game. Saturday's game might have been even a little bit more fun, depending how you define fun. And it really showed how the Dodgers can win even with the pitching staff as currently presented and a little bit of guys coming back. That's also going to help that. We're talking about Yoshinobu Yamamoto and his struggle on Sunday. Do we think it's tied into the hip injury or the hip issue or not? He says no, but you never know. We're going to talk about Max Muncy and if he's back, because offensively he's definitely been back. And we're going to talk about Hyeseong Kim because he deserves to play more, probably over somebody in particular. So we're going to get into all that. Let's start with the Dodgers. They won the series. It was I mentioned it in the short after the game. Probably the more annoying way to win a series when you win the first two and then don't get the sweep. You add on top of that it was Ryan Yarbrough who shut him down, and you add on top of that the Dodgers got nothing from the top four. Yamamoto struggled. There's a lot of different things that added up on Sunday that just kind of made it didn't take from the overall series, obviously, because the series win is a series win, especially when, maybe some people didn't think the Dodgers would be able to beat Max Fried, didn't think the Dodgers would be able to win Saturday when Landon Knack going, and then, maybe thought they had a chance on Sunday with Yamamoto. So it probably didn't go the way some people saw it. But a series win is a series win. And against the Yankees, again, it doesn't ultimately change anything about how a potential matchup again in the World Series would go. It doesn't tell me anything about the Dodgers being capable of winning the World Series again. It doesn't really do anything for me other than to tell me the Dodgers won 2 of their last 3 games and they happen to be against the Yankees. But it did show us that the Dodgers, how they can have success right now, especially with the pitching staff the way it is, and how there is a path to being maybe even over 500 in this next month of June. We've gotten through part of that tough stretch. We're going into the next part of that tough stretch, 20 games in 21 days, all against teams that are pretty good, playoff contenders for sure, some also World Series contenders, some division rivals. So we're going to get into all that the rest of this month. But we saw how it went. Tony Gonsolin struggled on Friday, but was able to keep the Dodgers in the game and give the bullpen some help by going those 6 innings, and the Dodger offense took over. And this could be as simple as saying the Dodger offense just needs to take over, and that's how the Dodgers can win. And obviously, that's a big part of it. When you come from behind against one of the best pitchers in baseball up to that point, and Max Fried on Friday, when you put up 18 runs, even by the end when they were hitting home runs off position players, they still had 15 runs before they even got to that point. And that's the easy way to put this. The Dodger offense scores, 8+ runs every game. And that's a lot easier said than done. But this team is capable of it. But how does the offense do that? And, realistically, the offense does that when the top of the order is hitting. Mookie Betts missed the entire series with the broken toe or fractured toe. He went through some workouts on Sunday. Everything seemed to be fine. No, he's not going to play on Monday, or he's not going to start on Monday. But he does feel like he'll be able to play this week. And that's missing one bat. Even with Mookie struggling, that's still missing a bat in your lineup. The Dodgers still were able to put up all those runs. But obviously, it's Shohei Ohtani, it's Freddie Freeman, it's Teoscar Hernandez, it's Will Smith. Like, those are the guys that keep the engine running. Those guys went 0 for 16 on Sunday, and the Dodgers, only scored a few runs. And those were all via home run, Muncy, Pajes, Edman, for those 3 runs. So how the Dodgers get this going is offensively with the top of the order. Now, Ryan Yarbrough is an interesting case. He doesn't throw hard. We've seen him do this. What he did to the Dodgers, we saw him do numerous times in his Dodgers career to other teams. And, it's more fun when you're on the other side of it because you're like, man, he's not throwing that hard. He's mixing around his pitches. It doesn't seem like it should be that hard. And, it was that hard. And he's been pretty good for the Yankees so far this season. Not as fun when you're kind of seeing it on the other side. I'm sure Yarbrough had a game plan going in, knew some of these guys from, being their teammates and seeing them hit a lot over the last couple of years. So it's annoying, but I don't think if the Dodgers were to play Ryan Yarbrough in the postseason, I think that it would be a different story. And that's a lot coming from me, somebody that normally doesn't believe that the Dodgers offense is going to come through in the postseason. So, but yeah, I mean, 1, that's that. 2, the starting pitching can be good. It's not always going to be good, but it has the potential to be good. Tony Gonsolin has been good at a few starts this year, has been okay a few starts, has been bad a couple starts. If he can be more to the good side, more like the last 4 innings he pitched rather than the first, last 3 innings he pitched rather than the first 3 innings he pitched, that could be somebody that helps you out. 5-6 innings, 2 to 3 runs. That's all you can ask for. Landon Knack has been really good his last 2 times out. Landon Knack has that potential. For Knack, it's a lot of trying to get those outs early in the game because you don't necessarily know. I mean, he's had success the 3rd time through a lineup, but he hasn't necessarily done it too many times. The Dodgers haven't let him. They let him a little bit more, lengthen that leash because they have to. And, it's worked out. He's given them some length the last couple of times, and it's been pretty good. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, he was not good on Sunday, but he will expectedly be good the other times. And then you have Dustin May, who's been good a couple times now in the last couple starts, but still finding his way. But it's step 1, the offense. Step 2, the starting pitching. Step 3, and this is, going to be the tougher part, is the bullpen. And, the bullpen was good on Friday. Bullpen was fine on Saturday. Didn't really have it. Bullpen was pretty good on Sunday. Towards the end, obviously, they're using guys that they probably normally wouldn't use if it was a game that they were trying to win. We did get Noah Davis back on the roster. Luis Garcia went on the injured list. So there's another arm on the injured list and another arm up from the minors. But the bullpen's probably the biggest question mark right now, and that's in conjunction with the starters. If the starters give you length, then you lessen the number of people you need to use, and then you decide, okay, then I can use this guy, this guy, this guy. Tanner Scott got the one out on Friday. His next outing hopefully will be in a situation where he's comfortable, where the Dodgers are, maybe a safe situation, maybe not, whatever it is. But it just shows that the Dodgers can win. They can beat teams that are good. They can beat teams, they've been hovering over 500 over the last few series, and that's all you can ask for. But this shows that there's the blueprint for how they can win a lot of these games. And it's offense 1, it's starting pitching 2, and it's bullpen just hanging on. And the bullpen should be getting some reinforcements soon. Michael Kopech should be back this week. Edgardo Henriquez could be back in the next couple weeks. And, the Dodgers, even Henriquez is improving. And even though Kopech, hasn't had the best time down there on his rehab assignment, those are still better arms than some of the, the guys that are been claimed this year, guys that have, been picked up off the waiver wire this year. So, but Yamamoto, not a great start. A lot of pitches, not a lot of innings, not a lot of swing and miss. Is there concern? We're going to get into it. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers.
Are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with wonderful pistachios. I've been watching a lot of my son's baseball lately, and I love munching on some delicious, no-shell, honey-roasted pistachios from Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better-for-you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Maybe you prefer your pistachios in their shells. Well, they got you covered there too with their in-shell options. For me, I don't like to touch food with my hands, so I like the no shells so I can just pour a few straight into my mouth. Wonderful Pistachios is a complete protein, providing all 9 essential amino acids. These little green wonders pack a protein punch. So whether you're running between meetings or dropping off the kids, Wonderful Pistachios is the snack that works as hard as you do. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs the protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
I want to thank you for being an everydayer. If you are one an everydayer, just someone that listens or watches every day, we appreciate those of you that are everydayers. We appreciate those of you that are joining us for the first time, and we're here for you. Usually live Sunday night through Thursday night. Episodes Monday through Friday, and if based on that schedule, and make sure to come check us out. We're in Dodger season. We're in full-fledged Dodger mode, so why not listen to the pod for 30 minutes a day, making sure you're keeping up to date with the Dodgers. And how we're going to do that now is we're going to talk about Yoshinobu Yamamoto, because it was not a great game for him on Sunday. He threw 96 pitches, if I'm not mistaken, in 4 2/3 innings. He got just 8 swings and misses. And up until the last inning or so, he only got 1 swing and miss on the splitter. He ended up with 3 swings and miss on the splitter, but just 1 on the curveball and then 4 on the fastball. And yeah, it was, you could tell what it was, because obviously the lack of swing and miss, but it was also because a little bit of lack of command. And, they were able to get by and not swing at what he normally gets people to swing at. And ultimately, that's what he got to 2 strikes a lot of times. And then he gave up a lot of hits on 2 strikes. And that's the tough part when you don't necessarily have the command and you're a command pitcher. Yamamoto could be a power pitcher in a sense. He doesn't throw 100 miles an hour, but he can dial it up to 97. And, it's funny to say that's not a power pitcher, but in today's game, that's, maybe a hair under a power pitcher. If you can pump 100, that's a lot different. You can get away with a lot when you throw 100. You can get away with a lot more. Even if you don't have command on your best stuff, you can still, get some strikeouts, because you can just, throw 100 up in the zone and hope that they don't get it, or even 100 in the middle of the zone, and guys may not always catch up to it. But for Yamamoto, if he doesn't have the command, his fastball is straight. His splitter is easy to read, because, you don't know where it's going to go, and guys can lay off of it a little bit more. The curveball, not landing it in for strikes means guys aren't going to necessarily swing at it, and, you like the swing and miss. And we know that Yamamoto, after his last start, had a little bit of a hip issue after making that play at first base against the Guardians. And we thought, okay, maybe there is something there. After the game, he said that it was not anything with his hip, and we're going to take him at his word for that. Obviously he's not going to want to make any excuses. He's not going to want to say that. But that could be a little thing. Maybe he didn't quite have his mechanics right. Maybe he felt a little bit off, and maybe he doesn't feel, it's a matter of maybe he didn't feel pain or he didn't feel discomfort in the hip, but maybe he was overcompensating ahead of time in order to not feel pain in the hip, and that's what ultimately compromised them. We don't know. I'm just going to chalk it up to a bad day. Yamamoto's had a couple bad starts so far this year, but he's always given the Dodgers length. This is the one time he didn't, and it came on a good weekend. We've talked about Yamamoto kind of being the stopper for this Dodger team, and a little bit of a reverse here on Sunday. The Dodgers had come in winning the last 2 against the Yankees, and then Yamamoto didn't give them a stopper performance. But this happens sometimes. It's a lot easier to manage when you have the starters the previous 2 games going 6 innings. you getting to throw Kike in the 9th inning on Saturday in order to save an arm, and you're able to, throw Chris Stratton out there. You're able to throw different guys out there and get through the game, Lou Trevino and Anthony Banda, guys that haven't necessarily pitched. So that's where we're at for Yamamoto. I'm not going to be too worried. I'm not going to be too concerned. It was a bad start and a bad start lacking command. And there's probably teams that he can have this exact same stuff and maybe could have got through 5-6 innings, gutted through. But the Yankees were taking advantage. I'm sure the Yankees, I don't know if you can be extra locked in. Like, I don't know if it's like, oh, Yankees, like, we lost the first game of the series. We need to win this last one. So we're going to be extra locked in, because if that was the case, then everyone would be extra locked in big games. And, offenses there'd be a lot more 11-10 games than there are out there in the world right now. So I don't think it's a matter of that. I just think they took advantage of it. They, were patient, and they did what they needed to do against Yamamoto. They did what they needed to do later in the game when the Dodgers kind of got back into it, and that's just the way it goes sometimes. But yeah, we'll see. Yamamoto, this is going to be a little blow to the talk of being the all-star starter. Not a huge blow, but a little bit of a blow. A blemish on that first half of the season. Not that he necessarily wants that, not that we're necessarily think that means anything, but it's just a cool thing. In the grand scheme of things, like over the course of the season for the Cy Young, every Cy Young winner is going to have a couple bad starts. This is Yamamoto's bad start. He didn't necessarily give up a lot of runs. It was just, not efficient. 20-some pitches in the first inning, 17 pitches in the second inning, 30-some pitches in that third inning, and 90 pitches into the fourth inning and coming out of the game. So that's not a recipe for success, and I don't think we're going to have to worry about that with him too often this season. I would imagine that he's going to work on some mechanic things, work on whatever it is, and he'll be great out in his next outing, and that's all we can really hope for. But again, there was nothing here that really tells us anything of, oh, Yamamoto's bad now. It's just he was bad in this game. All right, we're going to get into Max Muncy because his offense has been good. And, he didn't do anything defensively that made us want to yell at him that I can remember. That's a lot benefited by the fact that the Dodgers were winning on Friday and Saturday. We're going to talk about Hyeseong Kim because he needs to play. That means somebody else needs to play less. And I believe we all know who that somebody else is. We're going to get into it. Make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers one of the listens every day, whether it's your first listen, last listen, second, third, fourth listen, whatever listen of the day is. It's tough to be the first listen of the day if you're watching live because it's 10 o'clock Pacific time right now. So, but if we're your last listen of the day, that's also good, before you go to bed. Whatever listen we are, we appreciate you. And remember, you can check out Locked On MLB Game Night as well, wherever Locked On MLB is on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. You might see us on there sometimes. It's local analysis on a national scale, covering every game every day. So go check out Locked On MLB Game Night. And let's get into Max Muncy, because Max Muncy, we had a whole segment on him last week, and it was mostly about his defense, but also how his defense is a bigger deal when he's not performing offensively. And at that time, he was not performing offensively in that moment, in that, few game stretch where he was also struggling on defense. And it was not a good time to really look at Max Muncy. But we both, Jeff and I both mentioned that we believe in Max Muncy, to a certain extent. And we weren't ready to give up on him. And he had better numbers in May since getting the glasses. And, it just wasn't quite the slug that we were expecting from Max Muncy. Well, Max Muncy had some slug this weekend, and he's had a little bit more slug recently. And, quietly, the OPS is almost at 750. It's at 749. He's up to 7 home runs now, with 4 of those coming in the last week. And you look at the last 30 games, which, essentially takes it back to when he got the glasses. all 7 home runs, 28 RBI, 19 walks, 18 strikeouts, a 276 average, and an OPS over 900. That'll play. That's the Max Muncy we've come to know and love. And that's a Max Muncy that can get a little bit away with defense, not great defense, but it's one of those things where we would still like to see the improvement on defense. And he's done it before. I mean, he's had struggles, really bad struggles on defense before, and, has worked through most of them. He's still not going to give you 100% confidence when the ball's hit to him, but that's just, the way it goes sometimes. That's you're going to take that if your guy's OPSing, 900 and hitting a bunch of home runs. So I would prefer to not have that side of it, but, the offense is starting to show itself and the power is starting to show itself. And that's the big part. And, he was hitting a few of these early in the season. I know people have been kind of mentioning, I've seen on social media, I've seen it, even over in our Discord server about how many times Max Muncy has just missed a homer where he's pulled it a little bit too much. And he doesn't always end up having a successful at-bat, but that's also a sign of he's seen things better and he's just missing it. And it's a lot easier to stomach when he's just missing it, but also coming through in that game. So, yeah, for me, it's one of those things that this is the Max Muncy that we expected to be back. It took, the glasses a little bit, and it might just be a matter of he was going to figure it out anyways, and the glasses are just a happy accident as part of that. But regardless, I mean, Kike's kept his, Muncy's kept his, and there's no reason to go away from it right now. And if Muncy can, keep that slug going, get into double digits here in the next week, that just adds to that lineup. We talked earlier in the first segment about, the offense kind of carrying things right now. And I mentioned Ohtani, I mentioned Teo, I mentioned Freddie, I mentioned Will Smith. I didn't mention Muncy. He's not necessarily in that first tier of guys right now, but he's right there. And if he's number one guy in the second tier, then you're in a good spot in your lineup because those first tier has 5 guys. And if Muncy's, your 6th best hitter or in theory your 6th best hitter, then your lineup's going to go a long way. With Tommy Edmonds, another one of those guys, then you're going to go an even longer way. And when Michael Conforto, who, did a couple things this weekend, still not necessarily back, but has been better as of late, and then we're going to talk about, who else. Andy Pajes has been really good. He homered on Sunday. He had a big game on Friday. Sunday, maybe a couple mistakes there on the Pajes side, but not necessarily anything too. I don't know if it ultimately will have mattered. You can get mad that he got thrown out at third trying to steal. That might have been something that came from a scouting report. Edmund might get pitched differently and, maybe doesn't get the home run, whatever it is. We're not talking about Pajes, but just we're talking about how this offense can be. If Max Muncy's going this way, if Max Muncy's capable of hitting a couple homers and driving in 7 runs in one game, hitting another homer in another game to try to get, the game closer, that's what all we can ask for out of Muncy. Hopefully the defense improves. And then, you're looking at a certifiable lineup that's 6 deep, top tier. And then, last 3 pretty decent, whatever it is. So now we're going to talk about Hyeseong Kim. And this is I will admit, this is an easy conversation to have right now. This is, convenient conversation to have right now because when we saw Hyeseong Kim play this weekend, he had a 4-hit game that included a home run, that included a nice double play in the infield, and that included an outfield assist. And even if it was just that game compared to what Miguel Rojas did this weekend, that's an easy, Hyeseong Kim should play more. Miguel Rojas should not play as often, especially with Mookie out and missing a couple days. Rojas, there's no reason for Rojas to play shortstop 2 of those games, even when you have Hyeseong Kim, even if it's left-handed pitching. Miguel Rojas hasn't been good at all this season. And, it's Rojas has negative F4 on the season. He's negative 0.2 F4 on the season. And Hyeseong Kim's been worth 0.6 F4 on the season. Hyeseong Kim has had 48 plate appearances. He has a 200 WRC plus. He's striking out just 16.7% of the time. And he has an expected on base of 461. So that's pretty good. Now that, there's ways to poke holes in Hyeseong Kim. And one, they've put him in favorable matchups, and he hasn't played that often. He has a 486 BABIP, which, is very, very high compared to the average. He's only walking, 6% of the time. So if he's not hitting, he's not striking out a lot, but he's also not getting on base, in different ways. Those are the ways to poke holes into Hyeseong Kim. Even with all that, he still deserves to be playing more. And, we aren't privy to what the Dodgers' plan is for him. We, initially knew that the plan for him was to go down to the minors and to, work on his swing and to keep going with that swing change. But I kind of mentioned one of the times we talked about him, and people think, oh, well, if he's in the majors, he needs to get consistent playing time because they want to develop him. And I kind of brought up the fact that the Dodgers don't have a lot invested in him to the point where they need to develop him. Like if they wanted to sign him as a backup utility man, that's the kind of money he's getting, the backup utility man. And he doesn't have to play very often. And, he can get one start a week and he can get a couple pinch hit opportunities. And some weeks he might get a couple starts a week. And that's all it is. But now with Kim, like, it's one of the, there's the hot hand theory where, you play guys with the hot hand. That's where Kim's at right now. Even if you're just playing the hot hand, that's Hyeseong Kim. Even if he's not going to be sustainable at this offensively, let's see where that bottoms out at. Like let's give him more playing time. Let's see where he levels out at. And if it's really, really, really bad, then yeah, you'll know, okay, maybe, he's not that guy right now. But we know what Miguel Rojas is at this point. He's been in his entire career. Last year was a little bit of an anomaly. He was above average offensively, and he played a lot more games than we expected. And, he was pretty fun. This year hasn't been that. And this year has been more of what we kind of expect out of him offensively, which is not much. And defensively, he's going to make all the plays. He's made a couple misplays this year, but, everyone's going to make those misplays. But you look at what he's doing this year, a WRC plus of 51. Now, that's a lot lower than maybe we expect, but that's in sporadic playing time. He had 111 last year. He had 140 in 2020. But the rest of his career, he's been, 35, 92, 65, 98, 79, 90, 93, 68, 69, and 51 this year. Like, this is Miguel Rojas. Yes, is he playing a little bit worse? Yes, but that he's also older. Like, that could be the reason he's playing worse this year. And I just don't think there's a reason to see him playing over Hyeseong Kim. Now, he has probably a stronger arm at short, more experience playing short in the majors, all that stuff. The Dodgers, how they're going to win is with offense right now. And we talked about that. And Hyeseong Kim's bringing you offense. Miguel Rojas is not. If there's a chance for Hyeseong Kim to play, let him play. Let him get more starts. See where he's at. Let him go through some adversity. Let him go through some struggles, because all he's had so far is success, and that's a good thing. But we don't know if it's going to be sustained success or he's going to figure, something else out. Whatever it is, I just want to see it. I want to see Hyeseong Kim play more to see exactly what he is. And you kind of do need to see it before the trade deadline, because if you're going into a stretch run and a postseason with a guy you don't know what you have in him, that's kind of tough, because, bench pieces aren't a huge part, especially now with the DH and you don't really have to make substitutions. But there's going to be situations where you need a pinch hitter. And if it's October, and as we're sitting here on June 1st, if tomorrow was October 1st or whenever the playoffs start, I'd much rather see Hyeseong Kim batting than Miguel Rojas. 100%. Like, no questions asked. That's what you want to see. But we need to see from now, June 1st to that October 1st game, is Hyeseong Kim capable of being, an adequate major league hitter, hopefully above average. And that's what you need to see right now. And that's what the Dodgers need to see right now, because what we saw, there was a report from Bob Nightingale in one of his articles, the Dodgers are looking for a left-handed hitter, maybe bench piece type. You have Don Rush and you have Hyeseong Kim. Those are two left-handed hitters. You have Kike Hernandez. That's a right-handed hitter. You would think that there maybe want a right-handed hitter, in the Miguel Rojas vein. Maybe they don't. Maybe they want another lefty. Maybe they feel more comfortable that way. Whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, I bottom line, I want to see Hyeseong Kim play more. If it's between him and Miguel Rojas, it should be him. Miguel Rojas should come in late in games defensively if they need him. Miguel Rojas should maybe get one start every 7-8 games, maybe, and if that. And that's really all it needs to be right now. And hopefully that's what happens. We know Kim's going to start at short on Monday, and then we'll see if Mookie comes back. If not, I want to see him in on Tuesday, and I want to see him in on Wednesday until Mookie comes back. So let's see if that's what we get. And and we're gonna end this one giving a shout out to Don Rushing. He got his first career home run. It was against a position player, but who cares? It's still a first career home run. And ultimately it was a bad Sunday and a great series. And now the other New York team is coming into town, the New York Mets. So we'll be back tomorrow night to talk about that first game against the Mets. And that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank y'all for listening. Thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to find us where we get podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. You can become an everydayer by listening or watching every day, which can be made easier by subscribing and get notified when episodes are ready or when we're going live on YouTube. You can check out Locked On MLB Game Night, get local analysis on a national scale. It's on Locked On MLB's YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. You go beyond the podcast, go Locked On Dodgers Insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Get text directly from us, keeping you up to date with the Dodgers, and join our exclusive Discord server. You can find us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff's on Twitter at Snydog. I'm at Vincent91. You can DM us any questions or comments. You can also send those via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or if you're at home, search my device, play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.